When you're talking about your free non-negotiables, the best things that I can do, especially if you're a first-time buyer, is both of you write down your non-negotiables separately.
Yeah, it's my job to make sure my seller leaves happy with the most amount of money possible. The buyer is happy with what the next chapter of their life.
If we just talk about overall at this moment in time, what were your views on? Then we can go to the first-time buyer side of things.
It's competitive. Just choose the amount of properties on the market in the area at the moment, which is a great thing for sellers and buyers, depending on how you look at it.
Okay, so Crystal Harrison's Homes, and here we are, another informative, we hope, podcast about what the market is actually doing at the moment. And what we wanted to look at today was a first-time buyer's guide, and to give you sort of an overview of what the actual market is currently doing. So, Ben, what would you say, truthfully at the moment, not estate agent talk, what would you say the market's doing at the moment?
What, in terms in general, or just for first-time buyer and as a whole?
I think if we just talk about overall at this moment in time, what were your views on? Then we can go to the first-time buyer side of things.
I think in general, it's competitive. Just choose the amount of properties on the market in the area at the moment, which is a great thing for sellers and buyers, depending on how you look at it. Ultimately, there's a lot of choice, so it becomes more of a buyer's market, but equal parts. The houses that we're selling following our 12-step plan in the first 28 days, I can name a few in recent times, they are selling, and that's due to this 12-step plan working. So price to entice, multiple offers, all of them exceeding the asking price and selling for what they're truly worth or beyond.
So if you're a first-time buyer listening at this very moment in time, what's your sort of advice? So I suppose the easiest way I can look at it is, and it's not always the case, so we're selling properties at 170, 200. There are some first-time buyers that are more fortunate, that can afford more. And I tend to look at it anything up to sort of 300 at the moment. What would you say up to 300 generally? What's the market doing there? Is it active? I know you said just then about obviously there's a lot of choice. What would your thoughts be on?
Well, looking at being, boots on the ground and also the data, it shows it is definitely active. I think up to 300 with confidence, based on the data and based on what we're experiencing, is definitely the fastest moving market at the moment. But it's also the busiest. So you've got one half of that coin is you've got the most choice, which could impede on your journey as a seller, slow you down. Obviously, go through the whole rigmarole of buyers looking at everything. At equal parts, it's great for the buyers as well because there's a lot of choice. Now, I think the reason that a lot of them up to 300 aren't selling isn't just the typical reasons of, the estate agent's marketing it wrong or there's something really not right about it. I think it is truly a lack of estate agents helping, hand-holding really first-time buyers. I never had any of it. Obviously, I work in the industry, so I was quite well-versed, but my experience buying through completely other agents would have been really tricky if I wasn't in the industry, just with a real lack of understanding. I think that's can only be blamed on the estate agents for losing that idea of, when you know so much in the industry, at least you feel like so much, it's quite easy for you to forget what it's like for someone that's a postman or this is not in the industry. So I think a lot of that, you see a lot of first-time buyers, at least from my experience, they up to the 300 grand region, they view just about everything and they still don't know.
Yeah.
But sometimes they need a bit of hand-holding, a bit of direction, a bit of helping with anything.
So again, let's just touch base then. If you're a first-time buyer at the moment listening to this, what are some top tips of what you can do to, I wouldn't say necessarily look attractive, but put yourself in a better position? Because again, a little bit of market analysis, if we're looking at the 300 range at the moment, anything below, it's covering 51% of the market at the moment. And looking at that, the sold properties that are there's 44% of the market that is sold to the contract. So if you're a first-time buyer and you want to put yourself in a better position, what could you do at the moment?
Well, the thing is, for a first-time buyer, you've really got to set some time aside to put yourself in the best position. And a bit further into that, what I mean is not just speaking to one broker that your auntie recommended and having a word with him and getting a rough idea and then going a few houses. I mean, really thoroughly mapping out the journey. So spend some time, get multiple opinions, get a few ideas, speak to different brokers. Get a couple of agreement principles, look at different lenders, just get a full picture of everything on that side of things. If you're going for a mortgage, of course, which, typically most first-time buyers are. So speak to brokers, get some opinions. What else do you do next? Have a real think, especially if you're buying with a partner. What are your three non-negotiables? Because you might be very shocked to what each other say. You've really got to map out what you're both after if you're buying as a vet. And if you're buying on your own, well, that part's a lot easier. Obviously, on top of that, you've got solicitors. The problem that a lot of this industry has is delays on that front. Having a solicitor that you know, that you can be legally prepared with, maybe open a file if you're definitely buying a place and you're not just browsing, that's going to look attractive to sellers. It's going to help with other agents. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it over the years. You hear someone speak to a first-time buyer, they don't have an agreement in principle, they don't have solicitors, they don't really have much of a clue. It goes two ways in our industry. There's either those that try to help or those that sort of book them in and disregard them so much because they're not really ready. And I think that's, again, back to our industry is a bit of a problem, is that, if we help each other out, there's a lot of first-time buyers watching this probably that don't know what legally prepared means. It just means you've opened your legal file, you're ready to go. So the minute your offer gets accepted, whenever that may be, you call up your solicitor, you call up your broker, you give them the green light, and away you go. That can save you weeks on your sale agreement.
I think also as well, from my perspective as well, if a buyer was coming to me and they were saying, right, here's my mortgage in principle, here's my deposit, here's my solicitors, it's all instructed, I'm ready to go. Like for me, then speaking to one of my sellers, okay, subject to what the offer is going to be. Like for me, speaking to a seller is like, this person is on the ball. That's like, this is a great buy here. We should obviously consider doing something with this buy.
Well, it's very true. I mean, great relationships I've had with, I say first-time buyers. There were nothing to sell, but in recent experience, he came to me with everything, a full download of everything he's done so far, what he'd offered on previously, why he didn't end up buying it, how the seller let him down, and what we're going to do to maybe be a little bit different. That's for a buyer that wants to know that. So it's very important.
It's really interesting again, that as you were like saying that, because I've had so many buyers and I've had they've had advice from mortgage advisor, don't tell people what you'll go up to. And I think sometimes it's quite frustrating that we're not always going to be using it, just because, again, it goes back to if they can go up to 300 and they're offering 290, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to offer 300. Again, we're here to get the best price for our seller, but it's only worth what they're willing to pay. But I think at the moment, when you're looking at nearly 50% of the market is being sold, and what we're seeing, it's very remote in time. Yes, it's sort of a buyer's market, I do agree with you there, but I think there's certain pockets of the market where if you really want something and you're going to be there for a few more years, and you did a couple of calculations, didn't you, about what a few £1,000 would be on the monthly costs, which was very minimal, wasn't it?
Yeah, so if you're looking at an average, and I'm not a mortgage advisor or broker, so don't ask caveat, don't take this 100%, but it's going to be there or thereabouts. If you are deliberating over £5,000, you're a first-time buyer, £5,000 secure the property by extra. You spread that mortgage on an average interest rate, what we're finding at the moment, spread it over 4 years, it's a difference of £25 a month, which, if we're talking how much you're already going to be paying as a first-time buyer, month by month, and I know from experience, £25 probably wouldn't make too much of a dent.
Between you, it shouldn't do. But again, for me, it's that long-term, how long you're going to be there. And if you're going to be there for a couple of years, then you might want to look at it and go, okay, well, I don't want to be paying that much more. But if you've got something there that you really love, you're going to be there for a good several years, then in the grand scheme of things, it's minimal if it secures a house.
And you see that so much, is that people, I think it's more like people always want to feel like they've had a good deal. If they bought it and they're getting their dream home, they're getting a good deal, no matter what way you dress it. Like you touched on something earlier. I don't want to tell you what my maximum is. It's as if the buck stops at us. If it really doesn't, obviously it's our job to get the best price for our seller. But equal parts, without working with buyers, that's not possible. Now, if you tell me your max is 300, you're paying 290, does that mean I'm going to go back to the seller and say they can pay 300 grand? Absolutely not. Because if I say that, that's their expectation. And if you're never prepared to go there, then I've upset the deal. It's my job to make sure my seller leaves happy with the most amount of money possible. The buyer is happy with what their, the next chapter of their life is.
I've had it again. I've probably lost count of that times. Like people have gone and hardball because they don't want to pay X, and next thing you know, somebody comes in, offers more. The seller goes with that buyer, and then they come back and reoffer. And unfortunately, the trust with the seller's gone, and they've lost that opportunity. So I know we all want something for as least as possible, but I'm in a position that I paid £10,000 over for a property. I'd probably pay £30,000 over. The agent just didn't ask me. So for me, it was a future home, and it was a problem. You mentioned earlier on about non-negotiables, and I really like this because I heard this a little while ago now. When you're talking about your three non-negotiables, the best things that I can do, especially if you're a first-time buyer, is both of you write down your non-negotiables separately,
Yeah.
and then actually merge them together. And then what you'll probably naturally find there is you then have three non-negotiables. So I quite like that. That's a good thing to work off. So we've obviously covered that. Obviously, again, we have a fantastic mortgage advisor in-house. You can click on the link here, obviously, and again, have a chat with him. There's no obligation. We have a couple of great conveyancers that we work with as well. And again, when we're using the word recommend, I wouldn't want something to come back on me. So again, the recommendation is very strong when we're putting people with who we believe would serve them most. So obviously, that's sort of touching base on first-time buyers. So throughout the rest of the market, the easiest way that we've done this is rather than we've gone up to 300, then we've gone 301 to 400, 401 to 500, then 500 plus, which again makes good reading. So when we're looking at the majority of the market at the moment, and there's a lot around that 300 mark, and we've had a couple recently where we're going back and forth over £2,000. So if that seller there, so going more onto advice from sellers there, if that seller there was looking to go up market, considering that especially that next range up, you've got 25% and 12% of the market is actually selling, and there's a good amount of properties available in that next step up, what could a seller do?
Well, I mean, a seller, at least in our business, as it were, we offer the onwards negotiation. So, like you say, a couple of examples with £2,000 in drift, which is frustrating on both parts, because obviously if you go £2,000 up, that £25 rough that we've worked out over 40 years is going to be a fraction of that. And the seller, £2,000, I don't want to blow our own trumpet, but that's very within our realm to negotiate on an onwards purchase, especially when you're telling me 12% of that market that they're looking to move to, or 12% of it selling. That's an awful low amount. I mean, that 400 to 500 bracket, from experience at the moment, is a slower moving bracket, slower moving than the 500 and beyond. And obviously that's a vast category because you're talking 5, 6, 7 million, whatever. But equal parts, you still would expect, a bit of a trend, and that's the only one based on the data that sort of buck that trend at the minute. We've got one on a 400 at the moment. Someone's waiting to sell their house. We're flying over the asking price with multiple offers. But again, it's about, I think the large reason as to why it's a slower moving market is that whole, the upsizing from this 300 market that's so thriving, but so careful on what offers to accept and not to accept.
And yeah, I think, as I said, if we're being sort of truthful about the market, and I can probably sympathise with this, it's that mid-range at the moment, we would say those typical family homes where we are very strong. Like, if I was looking at moving and there's a little bit of uncertainty, obviously we're talking taxes at this moment in time. A couple of days ago, they were talking taxes up. So to whether or not they will do it or not, I've got no idea. I've got no crystal ball. I can look as data. But for me, you could see that there may be an element of uncertainty amongst families, not putting an extra strain on their finances when you've got a young family. But I think looking at it, you can look at it both ways. For me, if it's affordable and you know that you can guarantee that, I think you're in a great position personally to negotiate in that bid range at the moment because there is a lot of stuff available and there's not many properties that are selling. So we could easily, and the markets do change, and again, like the rates could go down, mortgage rates could continue to go down. The government may do something to try and improve the market. So if that mid-range starts to really rocket again, then that comfortable figure might then suddenly be out of reach. So personally, I think if you're a family looking to move, I think it's a great opportunity because I think there's money on the table there.
Definitely, and I think there's so much that can be said about a lack of education for people that are moving, especially, you think so much about helping first-time buyers. Obviously, this is somewhat catered for first-time buyers. You think that's a natural thing, but one thing, I don't know if you agree with me in this industry, and it's funny you say about home movers into that mid-range market, it's first-time sellers. It's their first experience, and as daunting as it is buying a house, I don't think it's anywhere near as daunting as selling and then buying again. And I think, again, that lack of education, lack of maybe communication in the market as a whole has really set the precedence that, oh, well, you need to squeeze every last penny out of yours because all of these ones are unattainable, even though they're sat on the market for 6 months. They've never been reduced. And to be honest with you, if you called up the agent, they'll probably be the ones that are saying, oh, they might take a deal on it. They just want it gone. So,
well, we've got a great case study from a client. It's not actually in this area where she had quite a strong budget. And again, it was over the just over the 500. But she was advised by agents there to actually look at anything up to 575 because there might be £75,000 on the table. I just think that's a bit crazy, but it's probably
just forget who they work for, I suppose.
Or overvaluing, and they're now worried that they're going to lose the business, and they're just trying to get deal and toe.
And that's another common thing in that sort of mid-range of the market. You see a lot of anomalies, at least here in Sittingbourne. I know you follow the market closely, but there's a lot of stuff in that sort of 400, 500 range that really maybe shouldn't belong there based on the data.
Yeah.
And I think that's another problem because it's again comes back to the agent.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think, obviously, from my side of things, I think that I said we're going to try to keep this. Ignore that bit. So, just quickly wrapping up. What I'll be really, really interested in, and I'm really hopeful that you, the audience, can sort of help us out here. I've seen this across the country. There's some agents using this effectively well. If there's something that you're unsure of, please send us an email or copy or comment or DM, whatever it is. If you're unsure about what a certain thing is, or you're have a lack of understanding on anything, please put it in the comments because we'd love to do a video on this and try to help you if you are thinking of moving.
That's it, really. Cool. Well, lasting messages, first-time buyers, don't quibble over small margins. If it's your dream home and it's a difference of £25 a month, go for it. I'm telling you firsthand, you won't regret it. And that's another thing, isn't it? It's one of the main things you think of when you're putting your offer in is what you're paying and what you're doing. I guarantee in 1 month, you won't even think about it yet. So yeah, don't lose out on the dream home over a small amount of money. Obviously, if it exceeds the budget and there's nothing you can do, it is what it is, but it's not the right home for you, then the right one will pop up. It's a competitive end of the market. And obviously, as a first-time buyer, there's always agents, good agents at the other side of the phone that'll be able to help you out and, get you the right deal. And even more reason to register and sign up with us for the heads-up videos and get the first sort of glimpse into that end of the market, which is going to do nothing but aid you, really. It can give you the first opportunity to get in there first, put a decent offer in, and maybe tie up a deal before it even goes onto the internet to give yourself first refusal. So make sure you do that as well.
So quick on why you've just said that, and I was going to wrap it up, but you're really interested in heads up. What is heads up?
Well, the heads up is, by and large, we do 2 weeks off market with all of our properties out the gate. So it won't be on Rightmove, on the market, Zoopla, all the major portals, as it were. It will just be on our website and on the back end of our database. So registering with us, basically will give you first refusal. You will know first about these full property descriptions, even without photos. I know some don't like to view without photos, but I've had conversations with first-time buyers before. I'll wait for photos. Well, it might be sold by then. They view it, they buy it, and they're over the moon, and there's that level of trust there. So it just gives you the first glimpse. Please follow our socials, because if you want to see, if we don't have photos for argument's sake, there'll be a video of us outside the property for the most part, just giving you an idea of what's coming on from a curb appeal perspective, a little bit about what it offers, and obviously our phone number to get in touch for reviewing. But yeah, registering for our heads up and also following our socials as a first time buyer or any buyer in general, even if you're from out of the area, really, really important. Just to give yourself the best opportunity to secure your dream home without losing it to anyone else before you even knew it existed.